powered by Riverside.
Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Special with my co-host Tom Stelzer. I am Dan Kiley, once again coming back with a very exciting episode. On this week's episode, we have Ethan Aigeldinger from Map Investment Properties joining us. And so Ethan, his background is, well, for one, he's very passionate about real estate, and he really loves to talk about mobile home, that asset class. It's not the quote unquote sexiest asset class, but Ethan gives us some really great insight on the mobile homes, and he's done some deals with Brandon Turner and his team out in Hawaii. So, Tom, what were your takeaways from this week's episode?
Yeah, I mean, Ethan's a stud. He's very passionate about real estate. You can learn that in just talking with him, and he loves being able to do real estate related things full time for his W-2 job. And I think there's a lot of great tidbits. I think it's a great episode to learn more about mobile home parks. And I mean, you and I are both surprised very often, how he was financing the deals, how they were finding the deals, and things of that nature. So I think there's a lot to take away from. It's a little bit more maybe involved or more advanced in some aspects of real estate than maybe our other episodes have been, dealing with single units and duplexes and things of that nature. But it's a really great episode. I'm excited to for everybody to learn more about mobile home park investing. So I think it's a really cool asset class.
Absolutely. And before we dive into it, we do have the real estate special tip of the day. Tom, why don't you tell us what that is?
Yeah, and you'll realize this with Ethan. Just be passionate. Whatever your passions are in life, be passionate about them. And who knows, it could lead into doing something in your W-2 life where you're passionate about it, and can have a lot of fun both in life. And I think that makes Ethan more successful in his day job because of how passionate he is about it. So follow your passions is the real estate tip of the day.
Absolutely. And last thing that I'll say before we dive into it, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, follow us on all social media platforms, and those descriptions will be in the link below. Without further ado, we will dive right into the episode. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Special. I'm here with Tom Stelzer, and then we have a special guest on, Ethan Aigeldinger. Ethan, how's it going today on this fine Wednesday?
Doing wonderful. How about you guys?
Doing well. The Eagles are 7-1, had a good birthday weekend, and ran a half marathon on Sunday. So, life's pretty good. Tom, how's it going over there?
Yeah, I laid in bed all weekend with, I'm pretty sure what might have been COVID, maybe just the flu, who knows. But it wasn't great. But hey, Birds got to win. It's Dallas week, so I'm pretty much fired up all week,
Absolutely. We could get into the Eagles and go a full 45 minutes of talking about how awesome they are, but that's not the main reason for this podcast. We decided to bring Ethan on. Ethan is a real estate investor, and his daytime job is working in the mobile home real estate industry. So we wanted to bring Ethan on. He's a Misericordia alum, go Cougs, and really just kind of just dive in and see and really learn more about your story and take it from there. So, Tom, I'm going to throw it to you to ask the first question, and we'll give it a whirl.
Yeah, well, first, Ethan, I don't know if you want to, Dan gave a little introduction, but you want to tell us a little bit more about yourself, maybe where you grew up, and then what drew you to Misericordia, and, kind of just give us that little rundown.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, grew up suburbs of Philadelphia, basically lived here my entire life, ended up at Misericordia, played soccer up there, as well as also was originally a nursing major, then changed out of that nursing major into a business administration with a specialization in healthcare management. Originally thought I was going to end up in that type of world, and whether it was working for a striker company or a medical device company was initially where my thoughts were. Ended up graduating in 2019. I worked for a Fortune 500 company, just working originally inside sales, then working outside sales towards the COVID days of 2020. So really flipped basically any industry you were in at that time upside down. So
Yeah.
kind of working through that was interesting, only having about a year under belt. And then kind of segued into learning about real estate while I was, working that job, and ended up quitting that job and becoming a full-time real estate investor right around 2022, a little over a year and a half ago. So.
Wow. That's awesome. It's like living the dream. You just get to wake up and, be excited about what you do on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
But so since we got to your real estate journey, can you kind of give us a little bit more of a background as a real estate investor and kind of how you got started into the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned before, I was working just outside sales at the time, and realized it wasn't necessarily anything. It was a large corporate company, and great experience, really learning how to communicate with people and so forth. But learning when you're working for a big company and you're essentially just a number, and you're really strapped on your time and everything like that after work and so forth, knew that I always wanted to do something on my own, and try to learn how to either build a business myself. Didn't know really where I wanted to head. And it was actually for my future brother-in-law, who he was the one who introduced me into the real estate world. At the time, he was working for Boeing, and he was back at doing his graduate program and specializing in real estate, and kind of just passed me over a book one time. And this was, early in my relationship with his sister. So it was kind of like, I should probably read this, being his, older brother, and, try to get on the good side originally. And
yeah, you can always appreciate a good brother-in-law. I got two sisters. One's married, one's going to be married, so I try to be as good as I can.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Was figured, might as well start reading into this and try to figure out that type of world. And didn't know anything in it. I have no real estate background within my family, anything like that. So it was very raw to me at the beginning, and read through a couple books, mostly all. I mean, obviously, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And a couple other of his books, and then as well as also a lot of the Brandon Turner books as well, with a bigger pocket. Yep, behind you. There you go. And it was definitely something that learned a lot about. Just simple house hacking was the initial kind of step I took. Learning, hey, buy a two unit home, live in one side, rent out the other, build out from there, trying to get as many doors as you can. So that was kind of how I first initially learned about real estate and got my feet wet into it.
So
awesome.
So when you bought, or when you found that first investment property, was that right through the pandemic? Is that when you landed on it? So
yes. So with that property, it's technically my home that I live in right now. It was originally listed as a single family home. It's an old 1869 or 1868 Victorian home. It's actually Bucks County historical home, which is kind of interesting. And it was single family home with an ensuite or a grandparent suite on the back side of it. So it wasn't listed as a multifamily property. Kind of flew under the radar initially, and reached out to my real estate agent at the time and was like, I want to go see this thing immediately. And it was a nice flip. Actually, the guy just was starting to get into buying some older homes and trying to renovate them. So it was nice because when you've got a fiance at the time who wants, her ideal first home, and then you on the other end want to find a rental property, you can't win all battles. So a couple of the properties I dragged her through were really rough, very, very rough. And that was the biggest issue we were running into at the time was how much money do we want to spend? And then also how much money are we leaving to the side then to renovate? So this property was awesome because we had no renovation costs at all. It was move-in ready for us. And then also the only thing we did was there was a laundry room that basically separated the two units. I put steel door on both sides of it, double lockable. And then that laundry room was now for the rental property. And then we have a big mud room that we then put in a laundry room into as well. So the rental property only shares one wall. It's really great. Never hear or have any issues like that. And the one wall it shares is like a powder bathroom downstairs. So, really ideal scenario for us. We've got two dogs, and we really wanted sound was a kind of a big issue or big I guess, question mark for us, and we have no complaints or anything like that with them. So.
No, that's awesome. And I know, it's one thing when you have a fiance or a wife, I feel like sometimes guys are okay living a little bit closer, hey, let's buy a quadplex just for a year and a half. And, we can figure it out, but you know what it's going to do for you financially. And sometimes, it's tough to get your spouse on board with that. So it's nice that you found a great happy medium and ended up kind of getting a duplex and getting to rent out one of those rooms and still getting a little bit of cash. And not sure if that one bedroom's going to cover your mortgage or not, but it's still going to chop it in half or cut it down significantly. And obviously you've lived there for a couple years now, but eventually when you move out to a new place too, now you'll kind of have 2 units rented out full time. I'm assuming you want to keep that when you move out.
Yeah, and I know you guys had Zach on this previously, and I know he talked a lot about mortgages and loans. So luckily, I got mine at 2.8% interest rate. So I always joke with my wife, I say, we're never going to be able to afford to sell this place because 30-year fixed at 2.8, I'll take that all day.
Unbelievable.
So it's very, very nice for that purpose. And ran the numbers, and we're going to be perfectly fine when we decide we want to move out of this place and have a full rental 2 doors out of this, which is really nice as well.
So where do you see so you and your now wife live in this duplex. So would you guys be looking to get another multifamily? Do you think you could swing that with her, or would it be just like, your forever home?
Yeah, so this was kind of our agreement was, hey, find someone that fit both of us. And then from there on, I can do whatever I want, rental property wise. So essentially our goal is to be in here for, however long. And then my goal is still by year end this year, if not by January, February of next year, to hopefully purchase another duplex, triplex, quadplex, something in that range. I've got a few markets that I really am interested in that I would like to try to build some sort of portfolio in and grow from there. So that's kind of what the goal is as of right now. My goal is by 35 to have 10 doors. So I'm 26 right now, and I've got 2, but technically 1, I guess, but 2 in theory.
No, it's 2 doors. 2 doors.
Yeah. We'll call it that.
Count it up as 2. Yeah.
But 35 to have 10 doors on my own. So we'll see how far we get with that. But that's kind of a goal to have in mind. So.
Well, it's always great to have goals. My goal was to have 17 doors by 30, and I did not get there. I'm 30 now, so I've raised that to 35. I still want to get to 17, and I think it's definitely doable. So it's great to have goals, even if you don't get there. Hey, halfway there is still a great place to be.
Definitely,
absolutely. That's really nice that your wife's kind of just like, do whatever you want with the rental properties. So. Because right now I'm in a 720 square foot apartment here in Houston and paying God knows how much to basically paying off somebody else's mortgage. So I'm in the process of trying to buy my first house, and Tom's been very adamant about me doing the house hacking. That's the nice way of putting it. But I've been picking it up, so it's nice to hear, but I don't think I'll ever get a 2.8% on a duplex, triplex, quadplex. So jealous, but also super happy for you to be able to, take advantage of the crazy market that we had during COVID.
Yeah, and that's kind of the piece too, is that for anyone who's listening, who's kind of in the same market, right now there's really not too many deals to find. I am scouring the web and MLS and everything I can to try to find a duplex, quadplex, triplex, anything like that, and it's difficult right now. Part of that's with the debt market, but also home prices are really not reflecting yet on where the market is on rates. So it's making it a little bit difficult for that. That doesn't mean there's no deals to be had out there, but it's definitely affecting some things. And I would say being able to when I purchased this property that we're in now, a lot of it had to do with the fact that this wasn't listed as a multifamily. It wasn't listed as a duplex. So trying to find a interesting or navigating a way to be able to put another rental property in here. And one other thing that I'm looking into with this is so I've got a decent sized backyard, and almost all the houses on our street, we have a back alleyway that have carriage houses. And our neighbor actually just put in a carriage house that has a one-door garage on the bottom and then another grandparent suite on top. So that's another kind of avenue I'm thinking about, is trying to potentially see if I can put a third unit on this property alone. The market's really good. The rents are really good here. So if I can figure out how to get another door without actually having to buy another property, would kind of be ideal. So I guess trying to be as creative as you can in this market that we're in can really help trying to find another rental property for anyone.
Yeah, I think creativity is always the key. I mean, almost every house that I've purchased and the houses Dan and I have purchased, I mean, we've always gotten creative. I bought a 3-bedroom and took out the dining room and made it, a 4-bedroom. And, whatever you can do to add an extra bedroom. Because, I mean, for us, typically we're still renting to college students for the most part. So, adding an extra bedroom, you get an extra room for another student. So that's been one of our strategies that we've tried to maximize and be creative with. And it's, especially in a market like today, the more creative that you can get, or the more people that you network with. I mean, the last 2 houses that Dan and I bought, one was off market, the other one was barely, I don't even think it was listed yet. So you could almost say they were both off market. And we ended up getting a steal of a deal compared to what those properties are worth now, what we purchased them for. But that happened because of, kind of networking, really falling in love with the house, following back up a year and a half later. We didn't have the money originally. We had the money a little bit later. Interest rates obviously were a little bit higher, but we were able to get a deal. So to your point, creativity is really how you're going to make money in today's market.
Yeah. And Tom, real quick, just going off of, you're saying that one might have been, or they might have been both, off the MLS deals. I think one was listed and then they took it off, and then we looked at it a while ago, and then, like you said, we came back and he was like, "Hey, I have something up the street that I'm looking to get rid of as well." So he cut us a deal, and it was a nice win for our company.
Yeah,
Definitely.
we got lucky. The owner showed up when I went to visit the other property, and so he was like, "Hey, I actually have something up the street if you're interested." And so him and I went up. I don't even think the realtor made it up there with us. And so, yeah, but I mean, just kind of dumb luck, and that happens when you put yourself out there. But so, Ethan, can you tell us a little bit more about mobile home parks? I know that's something that you're kind of invested in, and I personally don't know much about it. So I'd love for you to share all the knowledge that you got on mobile home parks for our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. So mobile home parks. So I work for Map Investment Properties. So it's actually my brother-in-law's company that he built. And right now it's about 4 of us, or 5 of us all together right now that are working within the company. And, with this, it was something that, when you tell people the first time that you work in the mobile home park world, or you work with trailer parks or RV parks, they look at you a little bit differently, and they go, "That's a weird asset to own." It's, I was telling Dan, it's not a sexy asset in any way. It's not, but quite frankly, it's a recession-proof asset, and it's also an asset that you can run at a fairly low expense rate as long as you purchased it the right property and the right market and so forth. So these mobile home parks, it's interesting that they're called mobile homes. I saw a great article by Daniel Weisfield. He's a guy at 3 Pillar Communities, which is a large operator and of mobile home parks, mostly all in California. And he talked about that it was like 86% of mobile homes actually never get moved once actually put into its place. So, you're talking about a, mobile home park, but in no way are they mobile. They're really no different than your neighborhoods that you're around here. But the biggest difference with these is that they're essentially all land leases. So, you're charging a lot rent every space. And, a lot of times if you're running it correctly, you've got direct billed water, you've got direct billed electric. So all your utilities are basically over your head. And then if you want to even take it to the next level, if you find a really good park, the roads a lot of times are maintenance by the city or the county or whoever it is as well. So when you're looking on your sheet on, what your expenses are, a lot of times it might be streetlights. It might be, a clubhouse if you're looking at a park down in Florida or California. But so a lot of these things they're really low expenses. Right now, our company, we own a small park outside of Philadelphia, 36 lots, and all tenant-owned homes. So we do not own any of the homes. We own the land underneath. Tenants pay us lot rent, and all the utilities are directly billed to them. So expense wise, it's really not anything that is really hurting us, I would say. And then the other piece with them too is that a majority of these mobile home parks throughout the country are also owned by what we call mom and pop operators. They're not large operators. They've been owners of them, whether it was their parents, their grandfather developed it, built it, so forth, and it's been passed down from generation to generation. And what we've noticed in this market is that it gets to a point where, hey, the kids are not interested in the asset. They don't want to run a mobile home park, whatever it is. They like to check when they were growing up, but now they're ready to sell it because maybe one of their family members passed away or something like that. So that's a big player where we come into, where we are helping facilitate deals between large operators and the mom and pop operators, and basically just help get deals done. So
interesting.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard Brandon Turner talk about mobile home parks forever. I mean, it seemed like once he was buying his rentals and his quadplexes and he was growing and blowing up, then he hit mobile home parks and he went from like here and just like through the moon. Like he's just been taking off. I mean, Open Door Capital is his company that he created. And, I see him posting all the time, asking people for mobile home parks and trying to use like marketing to, get any additional deals that he can. And that's something he's talked about a ton too, is that it's a lot of these mom and pop people. And, if you get the right people, there's ways for both people to make money. You can pay them a pretty penny and you're still getting a pretty good deal. And sometimes there's, I think sewer might have been something he said is a bigger issue at times if you have to replace a bunch of sewage or septic systems, things like that. But to your point, maybe there's certain areas, especially in these higher populated places where that's taken up by like a local sewer company, and you might not have to worry about that as much. And to your point, they might not be sexy. And I know Brandon Turner brings this up a ton too, but housing's an issue. No one's really talking about it, but housing in our country, just in general, it's expensive. It's only getting more expensive. I think Wells Fargo came out today and said they expect interest rates to go to 15 to 20%. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but Wells Fargo is a pretty reputable company. I feel like if they say something that may or that might come true. And so 15% mortgages, people can't afford mortgages right now at 8%. So,
nope.
Again, mobile homes might not be sexy, but people are going to need places to live. And that's a very valuable asset because of their affordability.
That's another thing that I saw was Walmart selling these tiny homes for like $9,000 or $10,000 just because the country's having this housing crisis, whether you're renting or owning, and rents are going up. So people are like, oh, I need to buy a house. But then you're getting hit with these 9%, 10%, or right now it's 7.5%, 8%. But if interest rates go to 15%, I mean, good luck, so.
Yeah, it changes a lot. And, kind of off your point too, the difficult part with these mobile home parks is a lot of them are grandfathered in to the, city or the county that they're in. But developing them is near impossible because a lot of counties and a lot of cities, they don't want mobile home parks in their town. They want Toll Brothers to come around and put a nice neighborhood right there on that vacant land. So one way that I've seen that some people are getting around that is saying, well, it's not a mobile home park, it's a tiny home development or things like that, trying to change it up, but essentially it's the same thing because those tiny homes that people are bringing in, they're putting them on poured pads. Utilities already run to them. It runs exactly like a mobile home park. It's just what you're just talking, whatever's being put on that pad is a little bit different. And that's kind of, we're in the business as well for the RV parks. A little bit more difficult, higher expenses, more transient market, I would say. But if you can get into a good RV park in the Florida market that's anywhere along the Gulf or the ocean, I mean, it's a great asset as well because you get the snowbirds that come down there during the winter months, and that those things just print money as well. And back to Tom, your point with the apartment. So a lot of the guys we do work with, they started out in the apartment world, but if you think about when you have a physical structure and you're renting out those individual rooms, I mean, that with your college houses, I know that with my rental property, you've got your expenses. For the most part, unless you're billing back for your utilities, you're covering all that. You own the walls. You own, hey, someone puts a hole through the wall. You own that. You got to fix it. Yeah, you charge a security deposit, whatever. But, that's still the risk that you have and the expenses you have. But with these mobile home parks, that home is theirs. And usually they're going to take care of that. And that's kind of the other model of mobile home parks, is that a lot of these parks are also what we call park-owned home mobile home parks. So the person who owns the mobile home park also owns every single unit in there. A lot of the guys we work with, they prefer not to have those, because there's not really a difference between you having those and an apartment complex. Your expenses are higher because you get that, as well as also people tend to, it's an unfortunate piece, but you're kind of your tenant base who are looking to rent a mobile home rather than purchase one and pull one out in a park. They tend to only be there month to month. You can't get them on long-term leases, as well as also a lot of times you got to go in there and basically re-gut the entire mobile home and fix it up, which costs anywhere from $15,000 to $20,000 for a mobile home that only costs maybe $10,000 at the beginning of the place anyway.
So somebody like me, I mean, I say I'm a avid real estate investor, and we have a couple properties. But like, one thing for me to try and get into mobile home parks, I would say it's too expensive. And I don't know much about it, right? But to me, they sound expensive. Buying all that land, owning all that property. So is that a common thing, or is that a misconception on my end, or are they relatively expensive?
So I would say, I don't have a great answer for you. I would say it really depends, because, obviously with where the debt market is right now, for you to go get pre-approved for $1 million loan for a mobile home park, good luck, because one, getting financing on these things are near impossible. If there's any park-owned homes in there, banks won't touch it. Banks hate mobile home parks or mobile homes more than anything. So you need to go to someone who's willing to, one, lend you a lot of money, and two, trust you. And unfortunately, especially right now in this market, it's a lot more difficult. I would say this though, and last time I spoke with Zach, he joked, because he hates this more than anything. But the biggest thing that we've been doing, and majority of our deals have been seller financing. And seller financing has been really the way that, especially with rates been going up, we've continued a great deal flow because of seller financing. So just to give you some rough terms, if you owned a mobile home park, and you didn't care whether you got cash right now, because a lot of these guys, they don't need cash right now. So one, I'll end up paying you, if it's $1 million park, you might end up netting, $1.2 million over a 5-year span. And we could do that then, 5-year balloon interest only payments for those 5 years, and, at 5% interest rate. That makes our lives a whole lot easier, because we don't have to go out to get a bank loan. We could go in there, because a lot of these parks are at lower rents compared to what markets are. So we can go in there, if rents are $300, we can go in there, increase rents to $500 per unit to make it look better than in 5 years when we have to pay off that note to the owner. A bank's going to look at that, and it's going to look a whole lot better when we have to pay out cash to that owner then. And then, it's like any real estate, then you refinance out, you pull your money out of it, you go buy another mobile home park. So really, once you get your first one underneath you, you can just keep going and going. And I know that that's one thing Brandon Turner talked about, is getting into his first ones, going in there, putting a value add to the park, whether it's pave the roads, put a fence around, put a nice sign. It's what the people in the community really like. And as you do that, you increase rents by $25, $50, over a 5-year span. And, guess what? The park brings in a whole lot more money then, as well as also you can refinance all that out. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's a great strategy. Seller financing, something I haven't done. I mean, ironically enough, there was a woman I did speak to one time about seller financing, and she told me one of her strategies is she would go into a mobile home park and not necessarily buy the entire park, but she would just buy specific homes. And then she would actually, let's say, buy 8 houses, and then she would do seller financing on all 8 of them. And she would let people go in there, try to buy the home. And if, things fell through, okay, well, we got to kick them out, get somebody else. And she's like, I still own the asset at the end of the day. But she felt she was helping people, with it, didn't have the best of credit, and gave them opportunities to buy homes. So I just thought that kind of tied mobile home investing a little bit into what you're referring to, even though you're talking more about owning the entire park at that point, and then raising up your rent and utilizing seller financing. Though that's an awesome strategy. I want to learn more about.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we call that a Lonnie dealer, technically. It is what we call someone who owns multiple homes. And it's actually like a big, when we see that on a rent roll or something like that, it's actually a big no-no. We really don't like seeing that, because at any point, say that individual owns like 30 or 40% of the homes in the entire mobile home park. Well, what are they going to think when you come in there and you say, if you owned them and you're charging $500 to all the tenants to live there, and I'm going to come in there and say your lot rent's going from $300 to $400, so I'm taking $100 out of your pocket right there. A lot of the Lonnie dealers will be like, they'll just pull their homes out and put them at a different park then, and so that's like usually we don't see it very often. I had a deal in Kentucky that ended up actually falling apart because it was over 50% of the homes were owned by that one Lonnie dealer, and it was unfortunate because I guess they had a conversation before closing, and we're like, hey, we're going to come in here and we're going to steadily increase rents. And the guy goes, I'm going to pull out every single home here. So they ended up pulling out of the deal, which it sucked, but it's just kind of how the business goes. You got to just keep finding more deals and keep moving forward there.
So
I'll speak. Go ahead, Dan.
Oh yeah. So just talking about the potential of these owners pulling their home. So what's the are there issues with vacancy on some of the mobile home lots and different things like that? If you want to kind of hit on that, if there is anything, because I'm kind of like in the same boat as Tom. I know just like the surface level of mobile home parks and different things like that.
Yeah. So, Tom talked about it just briefly too, with what that Lonnie dealer was doing, because it's a fact, because you can't get any kind of mortgage or loaning on a mobile home. So, unfortunately, a lot of these individuals that are going out and purchasing mobile homes to put them on a mobile home lot, due to their income and so forth, there is no mortgage companies like Cross Country Mortgage. I know do not lend out any mobile homes at all. They just will not. And a lot of other mortgage companies are the same exact way. So these individuals, when there is a mobile home park that has vacancies, well, people get called all the time saying, hey, I want to move in. Do you have a home there? So it's on then the owner of the mobile home park to bring in a home themselves. And through COVID, I mean, it's supply chain with anything. There were backups on anything you can imagine during the COVID days. Well, of course, mobile homes are one thing. So mobile homes that you could get for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 increased price up to $80,000, $90,000, $100,000. Clayton Homes is one of the largest manufacturers of manufactured homes. And, to get on that list, I mean, unless you bring in a ton of homes, good luck. And then the other aspect too is that not any owner can just bring in homes. A lot of times you need to have a dealer license. So for the state of Pennsylvania, you need a mobile home park dealer license to be able to bring in homes. I think you can bring in like 3 homes. That's it. If you bring in anything more, you would need a license. And so that's a big piece of it too. So then, you're talking about having to get a license and so forth. So occupancy is difficult. You don't get called very often saying, oh, I've got a home that I want to put on your mobile home pad. It
Right.
doesn't work that way. A lot of times you have to bring in the home yourself, pressure treat it, make sure all utilities are set up, and then try to go sell that home yourself. Well, you're selling the home, especially in the market we're in right now, for $60,000, $70,000. And a lot of times the individual looking to buy that doesn't have that, nor can they get loan help on it.
So at least that makes a lot more sense then. When the woman told me, she was like, hey, this is a great idea. Like, you should get into it. And I didn't, but she was kind of unique and I didn't trust her 100%. And I was like, I don't really want to be buying these mobile home parks and do seller financing to them. I didn't really have the money to be paying cash for them anyway. But so that's really interesting, though, that I didn't realize financing is difficult to get on those types of houses. And then, so it does make some sense for these people to purchase them and kind of just do seller financing from there. So,
yeah, and
interesting.
These things are only getting more difficult with different state legislation. New York right now is a really tough state to buy any mobile home parks. We essentially don't even touch that state anymore because of the rent control. So you're limited, and I believe it's also for apartments. Don't mark me on that, but I do believe for apartments you have rent control as well. But you're limited on if a lot of these mobile home parks, their rents are so low compared to where markets can go. One thing we use Better Places. If you put in the zip code and you look at what a 2-bedroom rents for, let's say a 2-bedroom rents for $1,200. We usually use a rule of about 50% of that is what you can charge lot rent on a mobile home park. So you can charge up to $600. Now, is that the case? Usually not right now, but a lot of these parks that we look at that in theory you could rent, a space for $500, their rents are down at, $150, $200 or some of these mobile home parks. It's really low, but like I said, a lot of them are owned by mom and pop operators that have owned them for forever. So, if you know the
And
tenants,
they haven't done many, they haven't done any repairs, renovations, things like that. And, like to your point, you go in there, have a couple extra dollars, you repave the roads, put up a nice sign, just do some little things, maybe get some landscaping done and then bump it up. Hey, you're at 150 now. It should really be 600. We're going to take you to 200. We're going to take you to 250. We'll get it up to $300. And then we're going to go take, this to the bank from 5 years now. We're at 350. You're like, hey, bank, look, and it makes sense. They give you a monster loan, pull that cash out, and then do seller financing again. You use that cash to pay off those repairs, fix it up, and keep growing. I mean, it's like the Burr strategy on steroids. And I got to believe, and again, I'm just interested in seller financing a ton because I see it as a way to really exponentially grow. So you touched on it a little bit, but what is fascinating about seller financing that I think a lot of people, even myself, are scared about is you don't realize how good it is for the person selling the property, right? Because if they get, say it's $1 million, you're just going to give Dan Kiley $1 million today, you're paying a heck of a lot of tax.
Yep.
Paying a heck of a lot of tax on that $1 million, right? But if you split it up over 5 years and you're paying them interest only, well, now for the next 5 years, they can basically forget about anything, just live off of that cash, and they're not going to pay too much tax on it. And then, in year 5, they're going to get that monster loan for like 1.2, which is going to be larger than the $1 million that we got today. So they'll pay the tax then, but then for 5 years, they're basically living for free. Not living for free, but they're getting some sort of cash flow that maybe they wouldn't have gotten before.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, sorry. You got it, Dan.
No. Go ahead, Ethan.
And you, you hit nail on the head. I mean, a lot of, when I first started in this business a few years ago, when I would talk about seller financing, I would have owners go, no, I want cash now. Like I would say more recently within the last year or two, a lot more owners are way more open to doing seller financing because not only one, are they going to make more money over a long stretch, but they can defer their taxes. So, say this year they've sold out some other assets, they can't take that massive tax hit. Well, I'm going to give you a 10, 15, 20% down off of your $1 million property. 5 years from now, I'm going to pay you off the balloon. And then, every month I'm going to pay you, and I do amortization schedules all day. I'm going to do, hey, every month I'm going to pay you this amount of money, interest only. We can do principal and interest, combined together, whatever it is, we can get real flexible with it. And it goes back to my original point about being creative and you can do almost anything with it as long as the debt looks right. And that's the biggest point. If you're doing interest only payments over those 5 years, as long as the income can cover that, I mean, you can put just extra money in your pocket then, and then after that 5 years, like you mentioned, go to the bank and kind of didn't pay anything really out of pocket for this entire thing, which is interesting. And then
minus the 10%, potentially, but some people you might even be able to whittle down to 5%. I'm sure that there's everything's negotiable at that point when you're doing seller financing.
Absolutely. And, back to, I was talking about kind of how difficult it is in some states. One other state I wanted to hit on was Colorado. So Colorado is a very difficult state to purchase in right now for mobile home parks. They have a law in place for right of first refusal. And so essentially what you have to do, so, Tom, if you own a mobile home park in the state of Colorado and I'm going to buy it from you, you need to then release a statement to every single one of your tenants. Say you have 50 tenants all on your mobile home park, that Ethan Aigeldinger and the blank ABC LLC is purchasing the mobile home park for $1 million, and you have to give them the right to actually raise $1 million themselves to purchase the mobile home park themselves. So, right of first refusal. It was a law that was put in about a year and a half ago, and it's almost killed a couple of our deals that we've had. Luckily, the majority of the mobile home parks we go after, they don't have $1 million sitting on hand, nor $1 million to raise between all of them. But when you start looking at some more luxury markets like the Denver market, or when you're looking at a mobile home park that's like a snowbird type mobile home park for some.
I was going to say there's some in Florida that I could see some bougie people that just use it, and you're like, oh, you know what, this is a good investment. Why don't I buy it first? So
Exactly.
Yeah, I could see it.
So imagine you mentioned you had a nice off market deal, right? So imagine all of a sudden the guy said, oh, well, I have to make sure that, these other people can't buy it for the same amount of money that you're buying it. Well, now your price is out there, and it's really kind of muddied up the situation on buying some deals in Colorado now. So that's just another.
I could only imagine that 100% blown up our deal. I mean, I'm sure additional people would have tried paying more money for the houses than what we ended up paying for.
And then it would have been a bidding war.
Yep.
Shit, we'd be out of luck, to be quite honest with you. So from the mobile home parks, what states do you typically go after for deals?
So, the hottest state right now,
Yeah, go ahead.
Florida. I mean, Tom said Florida is awesome. I mean, but to give you some perspective, we were paying a little over $100,000 a pad for a mobile home park in Tampa, Florida, right around 2021-ish. Right now, we're down to like $60,000 a pad in Florida. So that right now is a basically direct reflection off of the market, but still, I mean, you're paying $60,000 a pad in Florida. Up here in Pennsylvania, we're paying $20,000, maybe $30,000 a pad, to kind of give you a little look on what that looks like. But we're in about, right now, we are looking about 35, 36 states that we invest in right now, across about 8 to 9 different operators that we work with. So that's kind of the states that we work with or work in. It's really anything like Texas is a good market, but you need to be within like the triangle of like Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, and
is it Austin or San
Austin.
Antonio?
Yes. Yeah.
Austin. Yeah.
That's
makes
kind
sense.
of the triangle. Anywhere when you get too far out of Texas, when you go West Texas or North Texas, it's all oil workers, and
Yep.
that work could be there one day and could be gone another day. I spoke with an individual today, in an RV park that was full occupancy in 2020, 2021. Right now, he can't get above 55% occupancy. And
Jesus.
He's like, yeah, it'll come back. It'll come back. And I'm like, I hope you the best, but like, we're not going to buy it
soon.
Hoping that it goes up to 85, 90% occupancy. We'll buy it at 55% occupancy, but that's what we're going to underwrite it at. That's what a bank's going to look at. So,
yeah, hope isn't a strategy. Yeah.
So, Ethan, can you do a deep dive for us and just kind of talk about maybe your favorite deal that? And I'm assuming maybe this would be one of your mobile home parks that was maybe your favorite one. If you could just start us from the beginning and talk through the process through the end, and hopefully maybe I'm not sure if you would have refinanced it yet there at the end into a bank loan, but if not, pick your favorite one and walk us through it, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'll talk about this one in Florida right now. So it's a park in Tampa, and really great owner, 2 guys. They live out in Oregon. They're both cops. They're really awesome to work with. They're great owners. They purchased this thing as kind of a side investment, and really actually developed the park into a much nicer park than what they bought it in, and that's reflected in what they purchased it versus also what they're selling it for. And a big part of that park is that, and this is what makes this one more unique than any park I've ever dealt with or looked at or worked with, is that it was 36 units and all of them are on rent-to-own contracts. So technically, you can't call it rent-to-own contracts because it's a big no-no. I guess legislative-wise, you're not allowed to hold a bank note yourself and so forth. But for this purpose, we'll call it rent-to-own just to make it easy. But essentially, these guys, they're charging right around $400 lot rent per month. They own, in theory, all 36 homes and are selling them to each of their tenants. So what's great with that is that tenants take care of their homes because they are paying off their note every single month to these owners. So they sold these homes for different prices, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 across the board.
So these owners are those Lonnie guys you were talking about, except they're the actual owners.
Well, they're the owners of the mobile home park. So technically, they're kind of, as long as they own the park, they're able to kind of fly under the radar with that. And so what's good with this is that, so they're paying, $400 a month, and they're paying an extra $500 a month to pay off that note, every single month until they pay off $50,000 or whatever they bought the home for. So this park is really unique. We had it under contract with another operator, ended up falling out. And then now we're working with a new group on this and closing it here shortly, which is awesome. But, what makes this deal so unique is we actually went in there and, new leases, everything like that, kind of cleaned up the books and really just trying to make the park a better park, which is awesome. And get the rents up to market, which is what makes it a little bit more interesting as well. but it's probably by far one of my more favorite deals we've done. A little bit more of a headache, I will say that, but it's nice to see all your work kind of get into a closing phase there, and that's kind of the most rewarding part of this business. So.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's persistence is always going to pay off too, and it's tough fighting through a deal and your financing falls through and you got to go find new financing. You're like, hey, we got the deal. This deal is great. Like, how can we make this work? And
Yeah,
So-
and this is another seller financing one. 5-year balloon. I think it's like 20% down. And what's great is we have it at 5.5% interest rate for those 5 years. So being able to know that you have those rates down compared to where market is right now, definitely on a 5-year plan gives you some flexibility, kind of for compared to having to pay 8% to a bank right now. So.
Absolutely. So, Ethan, we're going to be wrapping up here shortly. So, a question that I love to ask people that we have on the podcast: if you have $20,000 just sitting under your mattress, would you rather invest it in real estate or the stock market? And give me your reason why. And what strategy would you implement?
Have you had anyone say the stock market? Because I look at my
don't think
Vanguard
so.
account every once in a while, and I'm like, this is a waste of money. But no, without a doubt, it'd be the real estate market. Personally, one thing we didn't touch upon at all, and I'm not going to bore you guys with it, but storage facilities is something I'm really starting to get interested in. With $20,000, you can probably find a mom and pop operator, a smaller storage facility, and be able to purchase something like that. $20,000 probably won't get you too far in the mobile home park world. And right now too, with how expensive prices are for homes and duplexes and triplexes, $20,000 probably not going to get you too far there. But it's definitely, you can't go wrong in the mobile home. In the real estate world. The stock market fluctuates. There's people that make money on that, and I respect the hell out of that. Just not anything I'm too interested in. That's why we pay a financial advisor to take care of that stuff. But it's definitely in the real estate world.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Tom. Looks like you were about to.
No, I didn't have anything.
So Ethan, last thing that we have for you: where can people find you? Where can people connect with you? Instagram, LinkedIn, anything among that nature?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ethan Aigeldinger on LinkedIn or Instagram, both of those. I've had people reach out to me on LinkedIn before. That's how I got back in touch with Zach, actually. So I would definitely say LinkedIn's a great use on that. And then also kind of on LinkedIn, even if you're interested in the mobile home park world, LinkedIn's a really awesome use for that. You see a lot of people, I repost some stuff as well on what people are closing. You can kind of keep up on the market. There's also a couple of newsletters that you can sign up. There's a mobile home park community newsletter that's really awesome. It talks all about Marks and Millichap, the big broker, and the deals that they're doing, they're closing, what markets they like, and so forth. So those are kind of tools that I would say, if you're interested in the mobile home park world, definitely don't hesitate to reach out or start looking up some of those different operators and so forth. So
awesome.
Okay. Awesome. You're a sharp guy, Ethan. It was really great having you on this podcast. I appreciate you, giving us a wealth of knowledge on mobile home parks, and that was really enlightening. Felt like I learned a ton. Hopefully the rest of the listeners and Dan here learned a ton as well. And we look forward to having you back on the podcast too, to find out more about your own personal investing journey. When you guys move out of your place you're at now and maybe move into something else and continue to buy another duplex or two on your way to 10 doors before 30. I think you can do it.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Ethan Aigeldinger for teaching us about mobile home parks and the whole real estate market with mobile home parks and how deals get done in that world. So I thought it was a great episode. Ethan is, as we said, he's a very passionate guy when it comes to real estate, and he likes to consider himself lucky that he gets to do that as his day job. So wrapping up another episode of the weekly real estate special with Tom and myself. Make sure to follow us, like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on all social media platforms. Links to the social media will be in the description below. For Tom Stelzer, this is Dan Kiley signing off. Until next time, take care.
Powered by Riverside.